Hi, I'm Kurt, and I'm going to talk about the next generation of charts for better storytelling. I don't know whether it's actually better. It's different storytelling. I'll let you decide if it's better. So prior to Office 2013, there were about 8 or 9 different types of charts with a bunch of subtypes within them. And this is what the UI looked like. And LibreOffice supports pretty much all of those. The layout is a little bit different in the UI, but basically the same sets of charts are supported as from 2013 and before Microsoft Office. In Office 2016, some new chart types were introduced, about 5 or 6 new chart types. So those are the ones that I'm going to be talking about. And so far, none of those are supported in LibreOffice. So just quickly going through these, the first one is called Box and Whisker, not Whisper, Whisker. It's for showing quartiles. It partitions the data into quartiles. The next one is called a Pareto chart. It orders the data in decreasing value and then shows a line graph of the cumulative value. So all of these are fairly boring, frankly. This is called a waterfall chart, which shows the cumulative value from the beginning towards the end. This is a funnel chart, which is just a horizontally centered bar chart, basically. So again, pretty boring. Clustered column, this is even more boring because clustered column already exists in the 2013 charts. So I don't know exactly why they introduced it here, but it's a different way of representing clustered column. And there are a few details different, but basically the same thing. Okay, so now we're getting to slightly more interesting ones. This is called a tree map. It's a 2-level hierarchical display of data. So you see overall it shows a rectangle, and then the rectangle is divided up into 2 sections. The blue section, well, in this case, it's actually 3 sections, 3 sub-rectangles, and then within each sub-rectangle, there's the breakdown at the higher level or lower level, depending on which way you structure it. So it really shows 2 different levels, the big rectangles and then the sub-rectangles within it. This is called Sunburst, which is similar, but it'll show any number of hierarchical levels. So as you move out from the center of the circle, each segment can get broken down further and further. And you can have an arbitrary number of levels. Okay, and then the most interesting one is called Region Map, which is actually a geographical map, like a literal map, like Mercator projection and all that stuff of data. So you can put in Microsoft Office 2016, you can put in a list of geographical names, and it goes off and corresponding values, numerical values, and it goes off and figures out about them, and then it displays an actual map like this. Well, so as you'll see at the bottom, I don't know if you can read that, it says powered by Bing, copyright GeoNames, Microsoft, OpenStreetMap, and TomTom. So it's getting OSM data, presumably also TomTom, which is some sort of a geographical GIS, a geographical information system, and some other things. So this is not being rendered locally in your desktop. This is being sent off to the cloud and rendered in some Microsoft server someplace, and then being sent back as a bitmap of the data of the map. So it's interesting. This would be a challenge to implement on the render side, needless to say. Okay, so that's about what actually is there. And in terms of the data representation, this is all in a new schema called ChartX and namespace. And yeah, there's a big long schema to describe it all. And so The goal of my project is to preserve this data through round tripping to LibreOffice/Collabora. So going from Excel, for example, loading a file into LibreOffice, re-exporting as Excel, and then hopefully getting the same thing back. What happens currently if you do this round trip is you start with a chart, one of these 2016 charts. You load it into LibreOffice. It doesn't show up because we don't support it. And it says, this chart is not available in your version of Excel, which is, LibreOffice reads it. It says, I don't know what this chart X namespace is. Blah. I'm going to go to the fallback, which is just this little bit of text. And then when it gets resaved out to Excel, Excel displays the same thing. That is suboptimal. What we want is to have the original chart show up again in Excel. In the current status, as of a month ago, roughly, in my code, we can load a funnel chart, for example. We load it into LibreOffice. It doesn't show up because the rendering is not implemented. But the data, the representations, the internal representations of the data are partially supported. And so we get just a blank there. But then when we save back out and reopen in Excel, lo and behold, we get a funnel chart. As you see, details are wrong, like the color got wrong. That's because of a problem in my parsing. You can't tell in this case, but there's actually a missing, in the left-hand side, there's a stroke on the chart bars, the green stroke. That stroke is missing on the right. That's actually because of a pre-existing bug in the chart rendering, which is something that I needed to fix. So anyhow, making progress on this. And that's where things stand. And so hopefully at the end of this project, what will come back will be the actual original.